Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be talking about these...
My favorite book ever.
This is your favorite book ever.
It is, and I know you're going to judge me for it.
I'm not judging. What? Whoa. No. Why would I judge you for that?
This is just because that's a period.
No, okay.
That
I think that's great.
Great, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'm sure you're all really curious about what book it is since we haven't named it yet. And it is, in fact, the second book in A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Mist and Fury. ACOTAR. As I have been told. That was really good. We could never do that if we tried to. Anyway, and to your point, I know I didn't love the first book. If you have watched our video on it, you know that I was not the biggest fan for a variety of reasons. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you do. I think I have lots of wonderful insights.
It's okay. Honestly, I've talked to so many people, me included, who didn't love the first book, so...
Anyway, the link to that is up here and down in the description below. But otherwise, I thought this book was a huge step up. I really did. I liked this book a lot more. There are still issues I had with it, and also a particular character, but I just kind of decided I need to get on board with those, because otherwise this is going to be a rough ride for me.
Yes, that's fair.
Literally and figuratively. So, yeah, baby. But, yeah, I think this book was a really big step up. For starters, I was kind of ambivalent to the plot in the first book. I was just kind of like, I'm more into the romance aspects and the cozy fantasy, like the slice of life, cozy fantasy moments of the first book than I was about the plot. I didn't really care about the plot. It didn't really affect me that much, and a lot of things that happened in the first book also, I didn't think... I don't know how to say this without doing spoilers.
Didn't matter?
Didn't matter. I just it didn't matter that much.
It's like a standalone almost.
I was into the plot in this one a lot more. There were some fun world-building things that happened. We got a new crew who I basically universally loved. And yeah, I just, the fact that I was really much more engaged by the plot this time, and it makes sense because I think the book is over twice as long.
Yeah,
it's much longer.
Sure. So it very much is kind of like, oh, you like that? Great, let's go. Like, I'm going to take you actually into the good stuff, the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So that to me was huge. And again, I mean, it's so funny, and I don't know why. Or how this really works, but like the amount of slice of life cozy fantasy in these books is still basically my favorite thing.
Yeah, well, I think that's why we all love it too, because there's so much of the relationship.
And the romance, of course, is very well written, and Sarah J. Maas always does a great job with interpersonal character relationships, so that was great as well. Yeah, I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed this book, shall we say, which is a big step up. Yeah, no, I like this book quite a bit. I thought this is where I understand why people really I understand the hype. Yeah. So I guess we should just jump right on in. So spoilers going forward. If you have not read the first book in A Court of Thorns and Roses yet, probably go read that and read this one, and then come back. We'll still be here with lots of wonderful things to say about it. But yeah,
where should we begin?
Poor Tamlin. I mean, not really poor Tamlin, but I don't know. I do feel like he got done a little bit dirty. But there was an interesting thing that happened in the beginning of this book where she is dealing with the post-traumatic stress and of killing those two Fae, getting used to her own Fae body, as well as the depression that comes with all of that. And I will say right out the gate, I think Sarah J. Maas likes to write about people with mental health struggles and does it well. The way that Feyre deals with that, and it's very important because she's the only POV character we get in this book except for the second to last chapter of Brisand. But the fact that she covers that so well over the course of this book, I really, really liked. Her battle with post-traumatic stress and her battle with depression, and us getting to just watch her go on that journey and work through those things, I thought was very well done. But in the very beginning, when she's with Tamlin there and they do the tithe, I was just like, whoa, this is like Dark Ages medieval type stuff. Like, I don't care if you don't have enough fish.
Yeah.
I will kill you if you don't. I was like, that's crazy. Yeah. I was like, that's a pretty, for this like otherwise painted to be idyllic society, that's a pretty old school, Old Testament vibe. Yes, and that, which I really enjoyed, what I was just like,
well, it's like, do you really know this guy? Here you go.
Yes, but also the larger implications of like, we have an essentially immortal society why change would basically be slow or non-existent in that case, which I don't know if was the point she was trying to make, but does also make sense within the world with like what we learn about Rhysand and his court and how things are so different and what makes them so unique. Because if you're living in a society where everyone essentially lives forever, or even if they only live like a bunch of centuries, that's still long enough that all their children are going to grow up and become full adults, but why would the people in power ever step down? The people who actually have the power to change things, why would they ever leave their positions? Because they're not going to die.
Interesting.
And so society would essentially stagnate and stop growing, and eventually probably implode. But anyway, I think I'm reading a little bit too much into that, but I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a big commentary on Tamlin and who he is and how his family has run his court and how he's kind of taken over for the court. And I feel like the entire first few chapters in this book is such a commentary on like people who have been depressed and people who haven't, or like people who don't understand it, and like how people treat you when you are in a like lower state. I don't know if that's the right term I'm trying to say, but I think that you're right, like about Sarah J. Maas's writing about it, and it can be so healing as like someone who has battled with a lot of emotional issues to like kind of watch it play out and then watch those like stereotypical like people in their lives come in, you know, and act a particular way. And
I also think that it's a statement on how different people take different things from similar experiences. Correct. Like his reaction to what was going on as opposed to hers. Yeah, I think that Sarah J. Maas wanted us to hate him, and you can't help but do it by the end of the book. I, personally, still think that having him be like the betrayer and working with a genocidal maniac was like a step farther than I personally. I was like, I already hate Tamlin. I don't care.
But I think it was just to show his like absolute craze.
I understand. You know? Yeah, I don't know. I
like he's not thinking realistically. He's just thinking with his own personal point of view.
Yeah, I get what she was going for there. I just was just like, I would have liked it if we got a little bit more information on like Tamlin's family, because it seems like she was trying to imply pretty early on that like Tamlin's dad was a really bad dude. Like he was friends with Amarantha, like a besties with her, so obviously we think he's bad. He murdered Rhysand's mother and sister for no real reason. It's definitely sexist. Like, I just wish that we'd gotten like a little bit more there to make it understand that it would make sense for Tamlin to side with this person who wants to basically destroy everyone he knows.
But I personally think the point is that he's not siding with this person. He's looking at what this person can get him, and so he's not thinking about that. He's not thinking about that. He's like, this person can get me that, I'll deal with the other stuff later. That's how I read it.
I guess. That makes Tamlin dumber than I thought. We should move forward. Anyway, whatever. Tamlin, that's our talk about Tamlin. Tamlin
They're
sucks.
about to get married.
I've been told he's called Tampon by the internet, which is funny. Internet. Yeah. Anyway, okay, let's move forward. Rhysand, let's talk about him.
The love of my life.
Look, here's the thing. She does all she can to rehabilitate Rhysand in the reader's eyes throughout this book. And most of the issues I had with Rhysand from the first book are at least addressed, even if not in a way that I find particularly satisfactory. At least they are addressed. There is still one bit where he literally physically harms her in a very graphic way in the first book, which I had to remind you of.
That's why I'm like, okay,
there's a bit in the first book where he, her arm is broken and he grabs it and grinds her bones together, and that's never explained. Like,
he doesn't love her then.
Yeah. Yes, he does, and that's another thing.
Not then.
Yes.
He doesn't realize he's in love with her then.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, he's also like, this is a scary, to me, reading that, I was like, this is a scary, crazy place. All of that doesn't, okay.
Anyww.
Get
so
over it.
Basically, that's basically the journey I had to go on personally in this book. I had to, I don't love Rhysand. I think Rhysand is fine. I understand the type of character he's supposed to be. I think Sarah J. Maas went too far with making him evil in the first, but like there's just, anyway, I've talked enough about this in the first video. But basically the decision I came to is I either need to be able to get on board with Rhysand and at least read it without being pissed, or I should probably stop reading these books because it would be miserable for me. So I chose the first option, and so I'm fine with Rhysand. I do think the stuff he does in this book is very interesting, and I think outside of the romance, it's a very interesting character. And I will say the romance is written extremely well. I think Sarah J. Maas is really good at writing romance.
That
obviously,
slow burn.
Slow burn.
This book is a slow burn like no other.
Yeah, the slow burn romance is incredible. The slow burn romance is great. I think that the lead up to when they finally have sex is sexier than the times they actually have sex, which is the whole point. Like the scene with them in the one bed thing.
I told him, I was like, babe, you've gotten your first one bed trope. Now you get it.
Which was great. Though I think I was like the hottest scene in the book. I also think the fact that the wings are erogenous zones and male Fae can come from wing play is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
With the wings.
I was just like, wing play, great. But yes, and their whole vibe is so like, I'm gonna say this and people are gonna groan, but it's so Twilight. It's so early mid-2000s. Like the whole romance and the tension and the having sex in the paint. And I was just like, this is all like I'm playing like Dave Matthews in my head when this is. It's like this.
Who is this written for? Millennials.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Millennial
it's not a bad
women.
thing.
But I will say, and I've said this with a lot of these fantasy romance, books that I've read. There is a lot of that like things from, because I think the Twilight era like really set this particular type of romance that we're kind of all weirdly obsessed with. That's not great, very controlling, very manipulative. And a lot of this that is written by millennials, for millennials, a lot of the time, it's like, there are like little things in there that's like, I know you like this because this is how you were raised and this is like what you were raised to think is sexy. But then there's also little things of like, this partner is going to give you autonomy. This partner is also going to support you. This partner is going to be possessive, but not to the point in which you are completely controlled, because that's the whole difference between Tampon and Rhysand is like, Tamlin is like, I simply cannot deal with the idea of you doing anything on your own. You're powerless, essentially. I have to control everything around you. I have to put you, literally lock you in this house. And Rhysand has love and has bits of those moments and the possessiveness, but there's also the freedom of like, you got to do what you got to do. You're also a very powerful person. And while it's obviously not perfect, I think, like I said, the people who it's written for, we're still all kind of getting over that, because that's what we were taught romance was when we were younger. Jealousy and like possessiveness and all of that stuff. And so I think these are such a step in the right direction, but there's still a lot of that makes its way in, because we all kind of have that kink, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly what I got from like all of it. I think that that's one of the strongest parts of the book is the slow burn romance, which makes sense because of what the book is. Yeah, and I think that was where some of where Rhysand was strongest as a character. And his whole thing with like the two different courts, the Court of Nightmares and the Court of Dreams.
Come on.
Which is just the most cheesy whatever.
We love it.
And the way he has to act in the Court of Nightmares was very was I thought very interesting.
Want to talk about Velaris?
Yes, I mean that's my favorite part of the whole book.
We want to live there.
Yeah, it's great. It's
perfect.
A walkable city, and it seems to always be kind of fall weather.
Yeah, and it's a city, but there's also mountains.
Yeah,
we live in a townhouse.
Yeah. I want to live there.
Dream.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of this whole book. Anytime that Feyre was just like exploring, and it also paired very well with her dealing with her mental health issues. But really, just anytime she was out, like when they went out to dinner with the crew, with the Court of Dreams, one of my favorite scenes of the whole book. It's just all of it is so slice of life. It's so cozy. It's so heartwarming and fun. Just you and all your extremely hot and rich friends walking through the city, and buying out a whole restaurant. Like that's it's great, and why wouldn't I want to read that? And speaking of,
I was gonna say, how do you feel about the fam?
Yeah, I basically I love all of them. I can't really I don't. Yeah, no, I like them all.
Do you have a favorite?
Probably Amryn. Mostly because of the, I'm sure, lore
I thought it was
behind
going to be Amryn or Moore for you.
Yeah, Moore's great. I wish that she was going to be...
I literally want more from Moore.
Yeah, I wish that she was going to be in a throuple with Cassian and Asriel.
There it is.
Is
yeah,
it Asriel? Oh, nailed it.
The brothers.
Yeah, I wish that
boys.
they were going to be in a throuple. They're clearly not going to be because Cassian's gonna get with Nesta, but whatever.
They laid it out for you.
Yeah, they really did. But I love Amren's largely, like, less because of anything her character does, and I like her character fine. I'm just like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know.
They're like, she's kind of a vampire, she's really hot, she's not from this world.
Finding out she's a vampire was
is.
cool. I'm assuming she's like one of the gods from like Throne of Glass. That's my current assumption.
That's a good assumption.
Something like that. That got displaced. But yeah, I loved all of them, and all of them except for Amren, because no one knows what's up with Amren, have like almost like caricature level tragic backstories.
Oh yeah.
And it never got so much that I was like, ugh, but it is a lot. Every single one of them is messed up.
The Court of Dreams is very much the epitome of a found family trope.
Yeah,
absolutely. Whereas like everyone has this tragic backstory, but has found this specifically with their families or where they're from, and has found this family within each other, and it's just so beautiful.
Yeah, and I like that not only that we get like how they all met in this one book, which is really nice that it's not like stretched out and like kind of secret-y. For like, we get a lot about these people in this book, which I really, really enjoyed. I like the Illyrians. I like the Illyrians. I always love a warrior society, though when they treat women like did terribly, that's not fun. Yeah, I think that the Illyrians are very interesting, and the fact that Rhys is like half Illyrian. Yeah, so I liked everything about that. Asriel and Cassian are great. I loved Cassian's Iron Man armor moment.
The siphons,
yeah. The siphons. I really
Asriel has them too.
Yes.
Cassian's are red and Asriel's are blue.
I thought that was very cool. Yeah.
Truly, I never thought about it with Iron Man, but you're so
right. Yeah, as soon as just like the armor, I was like, whoa. It's
and
like
especially
Iron
when
Man.
you see them like in use, like when they talk about them in use, it's really like
pew 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 pew. Yeah, they're pew pewing everywhere.
Because they're too powerful.
They are. But yeah, I mean, they're... I don't even know if there's anything in specific I want to say about them other than the fact that I loved all of them. I think that they're great.
One of my favorite elements was always, and I think it gets more as we go on, but Feyre and Cassian's friendship is one of my favorite things because I think it's kind of unexpected, and he's just like this dope with a heart of gold, and is like very strong, like dopey guy with a heart of gold, and he has such a part in like, I mean, everybody has their part in like bringing her out in their own way, like whether it's dancing at Rita's with Moore, or whether it's Cassian just being like, I want to do something stupid and get drunk, you know, and it's, or Azrael being like very soft and quiet, and Amren being like in your face of like, get over it, which I think they have this perfect combination. You're right. Morgan's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I think the dynamic between all of them is just my favorite part.
It's perfect.
The banter and just the way that they all work together. The romantic tension between some of them. The fact that Amren laughed at Rhysand when he wanted to sleep with her. It's all really good.
You're like, you're so cute.
Yeah, you're so cute. Yeah, I thought it was... I love them. I'm excited to spend more time with them over the next few books. I thought Moore died at one point when the Gold Queen died. I thought that it was Moore. And I was like, oh,
she's
damn.
got the golden hair. Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, they killed Moore. But no, they did not.
No.
Yeah, so I really liked all of them. And the role that they all played in helping Feyre, like, come out of her funk and her depression.
Yeah.
And the
because
way
it's
that
all
of
needed.
them just kind of accepted her.
Yeah. And everyone's way of dealing with it is such a necessary part of that, and I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I want to talk about some of the lesser characters, starting with the Weaver. We're probably the least of the, like, I don't know if we're going to see her again, but I loved the Weaver. I love any sort of Baba Yaga nonsense, and that's obviously the stand-in what she was. My favorite, like, that was a very thrilling scene. When we found out later that Rhysand's mom was like, I'm giving this to her because if your future mate and or wife can't handle getting it back, she's not going to survive. And went, that's a lot.
It's dark. It's dark.
Gee, your mom was crazy.
Dark.
But
and Rhysand's like in a tree like, hey, hey, hey.
Yeah, he's just sitting there watching her. But I thought that scene was thrilling, and I really just liked the way, like, how chillingly she was described. And the fact that she, like, looked like a young woman except for her creepy face. And the fact that her roof was thatched with hair was really gross. Yeah, big fan of like the incidental world building done there, and
also her like power level I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Being like finding out what's the area, I forget what it's called, but there's like the certain area of the forest.
The middle of...
Yeah, the middle. That they're like, I don't really know what happens there. Yeah. But there's some really powerful crap and you don't want to mess with it. And she's one.
Yeah, you just kind of gotta leave her alone.
Yeah.
Let's see, what other characters
that
really... The Surreal, again, her and the Surreal are just besties, essentially.
Yes.
Just like, they're just hanging out.
The Surreal, well, and you'll see, I'll have to show you now, I can like show you some of the Surreal's life on the internet is one of my favorite parts, to have come from the ACOTAR world, because the Surreal has just turned into literally like the tea spiller, like the one. Well, and that's very much how the Surreal is. And a lot of people call the Surreal she online, but I don't know if they're ever gendered. So I feel like they them. They very much are like, oh, your mate. What? Whoops! Did I say that?
You didn't know that? Crazy.
Which is phenomenal because they're described as this like grotesque, horrifying, almost like wraith-like Dementor creature, but it's got a tinge of humor to it.
Oh yeah.
He's like, you caught me again? Oh darn it.
Oh no. Yeah, it's just like, great, of course the Surreal's
Which I think the Surreal's journey from the first book to this one is very funny, because like they literally are almost besties at this point. Feyre's like,
well,
oh,
it's
I need
unclear
something
if
to
there
turn
are
into.
A bunch, or if there's just one.
I think it's just one.
Okay, well, whatever.
The Surreal.
The Surreal, yeah.
Not a Surreal.
I don't know. Anyway.
He's your mate. What did I say that to me?
And then her being so dramatic about it.
Oh,
you didn't tell me. And I was like, okay. But...
Well, she still has to accept the bond.
She still has to accept the bond, and she gives him some soup.
Yeah,
and
she didn't even know.
Didn't even know.
That's what it was. But I thought that you would be intrigued by that. That like... I know we've talked about mates in like the Throne of Glass world and how it's like literally like everyone has a mate, aww. And that's definitely something that Sarah J. Maas tackles in this book as well, but we do find out that it's like the bond has to be accepted. It doesn't have to be accepted. They can break a bond. Or not really even break it, but work it.
Well, oh yeah, they tried to at the end, but love is unbreakable, baby. They can't break this bond. I was like, of course they didn't break the bond.
That scene at the very end, I remember I was like shaking, like reading it, because so much is happening. We get a betrayal, we get a mate, we get a this, we get the bond breaking, and Feyre giving literally Tony Award winning performance. No.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Sorry, I skipped ahead. Any more characters?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Obviously. Let's see who else. Nesta and Elaine. We got more of them, which I was honestly surprised about. I was kind of wondering if we were ever going to see them again. So I was really glad that we got them back. I thought it was funny that it was very much the like, parents are away for the summer, and so like Dad's gone on a business trip all summer, so we can party at our house if you want, which was essentially how that all went down.
But also not that kind of being like, I guess you could come.
Yes, exactly. I liked, for the most part, I mean, Nesta was essentially just like, okay, me and Cassian are absolutely gonna, well, she doesn't think so, but they're absolutely gonna do it, and I'm sure they're mates.
Figure that out. Right.
Elaine, my favorite character, the most innocent and lovely of them all. I liked the kind of weird plot of her like being with a really prejudiced dude whose dad like hunts fae, and I kind of hope we meet him at some point. But I was really mostly just worried that something bad was going to happen to Elaine. But don't worry, she's in the hands of the best character in these books, Lucian. We love Lucian. Truly my two favorite characters.
Mates, so what?
Lucian just goes, "You're my mate," which is, I mean, like, it was a very dramatic moment. Yeah, it was a very dramatic moment in the book. But reading is like, "You're my mate." I was like, "Oh God."
He like deadpans her.
Yeah, exactly.
You're my mate.
And I was just like, "This is the best."
Like
so I'm so excited because I know that that's going to work out because Lucian's a good dude, and I love Lucian. But again, and it was different in these books than in Throne of Glass, a little bit. But Sarah J. Maas seems to love to like have turning someone into an immortal, beautiful, powerful being as seen as like a punishment by those people, which just, it's not. I don't know if you're aware, but it's really just better in all ways.
Well, but I think the point is that the world is prejudiced.
Exactly.
And they've lived their whole lives with
At least she did that, because the last time she did this with Selena, it was she's just like, I lost my human form, and went, oh, boo-hoo, that must be so hard.
Which, great.
Yeah. It was really tough. But, so I understand why, but again, I do think I think there's almost no way to avoid that undercutting the scene, at least a little bit, to just be like, you're gonna be immortal and beautiful. Like,
look at all these hot people that are just literally around you right now.
Which is funny because one of the queens does that. Like the young queen, they literally say, she's like, okay, maybe you'll, because the King of Hybern makes a joke like, maybe one of you will find your mate here, and the young queen like starts looking around at all the hot dudes, which I was like, honestly, the only person who's acting like a normal human in this scene.
Like, I'll take,
but speaking of those, but anyway, so I just loved Elaine. Lucian, I'm just like, you're too loyal to your friend.
Just dumb idiot.
I'm excited for him to come back into the fold, though, because I cannot believe it's not going to happen, and I love Lucian. And he'll fit right in with the court of sad backstories, because he's got a really sad one, too.
Yeah, and we also, there's like mysteries behind him in the Autumn Court that are so intriguing.
Yeah. I get the feeling he's going to end up running the Autumn Court, and Elaine is going to be his mate.
Ooh,
but we'll see.
That's a
could be wrong.
cool idea.
But anyway, speaking of the queens, that was a really interesting bit. Yeah, they all sucked, except for the golden hair one who then died.
Yeah.
But I got the vibe that they were going to be evil, but they were like super evil,
Talk
super
about
fast.
prejudiced also, like,
yes.
very.
I still think, I don't know, I think that the people in this book are being pretty dumb.
Yeah.
And that happens in all books. But it feels pretty pronounced here. Like, they're, like, yes, they want to live forever. And I understand that that's something, but, like, you can still be murdered. And this guy is probably going to murder you and all your people or enslave them.
Yeah, they're a little dumb. You're right. No, I had that feeling as well.
Also the fact that it came in the same scene with Tamlin being like, I'm the bad guy who betrayed you. And I was just like, everyone is being really dumb.
Yeah.
And I didn't even really understand. What is that dude's name that came back from the dead?
Jurian.
Yeah. I didn't even really, like, that plot.
He was the one that Amarantha was wearing as an eyeball.
No, I understood that part. But the fact that he's, like, working for that felt a little convoluted to me. I understand, like, I understand there. I got there. But I was just like, this is, okay. This is kind of a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, not my favorite. That scene was really tense, and a ton happened, and I think it was very good. But there was a hint of it that I was just being like, this is a big logical leap for me. And I think that there's a bunch of characters acting actively not in their own best interest, which is something that people do in real life, but it's a lot of them. Sure. And a lot of them are the leaders of nations, which feels like a lot. Fair enough. But
reality hits hard.
That's fair. Yeah. But let's see. Any other characters that I wanted to talk about in particular?
Anyone from the Summer Court that you enjoyed?
Oh yeah, they went to the Summer Court. I thought the Summer Court was kind of fun. I liked the Hot King, or Hot Leader, whatever they call themselves.
High Lord.
High Lord. Yeah.
For me, the description of the Summer Court, but I am a visualizer. That was the most crisp and clear. I know exactly what the Summer Court looks like. I know what it feels like. I know what it smells like. Like, I know. I thought it was the most wonderful description. I want that for the Autumn Court,
Yeah.
But I forget about that part of the plot until I read the book and I'm like, oh my god, yes, we're at the Summer Court.
Yeah, it is.
And there's some great guys there. There's some great characters in the Summer Court.
Like who? Other than the king and his sister.
And then
and the brother. Oh my god, yes! How did I forget about Varys or whatever his name is? Varial. Various.
Let's see.
Him and Amren's relationship is hilarious.
Yes, Varian. It is Varian.
Yeah.
You nailed it, Varian.
Yeah, Varian. I totally forgot about him. Varian is so funny to me.
Him and Amren being like...
Well, Amren mostly just being like, are we going to kill each other or are we going to screw?
You're trying to...
Like, come on. Yeah, I thought that was a very funny thing. And, like, the blood feud and her just being like, well, Varian then sent me this gift.
He sent me this beautiful thing.
Oh, hey, you know what other character there was in this? I did like the Summer Court. That's such an interesting, like, little side bit. That
the Summer Court?
Yeah, that I think is a bit easy to forget.
It is, but it's also, it makes me like want a book for each court because I think the idea of all the courts are so interesting. Like even like the Night Court and then Velaris and then the Summer Court and the Spring Court and how they have like I love them. I want to go to all of them.
And the incidental world building we get just from going there is really nice.
Yeah.
But the Bone Carver.
Oh yeah, I forgot you meant that.
Yeah, that was very interesting. And kind of creepy. I don't know that I have too much to say, but like his
he appears to you.
Prescience, like the way he can see.
Oh,
he
sure,
seems to just like know things. Very interesting. Interesting like concept.
Definitely like an ancient being.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, ancient powerful being. No one really knows what's going on. Yeah. And speaking of ancient powerful beings and Amryn again, there was one bit of the book where I got like kind of worried that the King of Hybern was also going to be dunked on by the end of the book and just like die, because she was like, okay, I have the book and I just finished translating it. Don't put them together, because otherwise it's going to like set out a wave of power that's going to wake up a bunch of other ancient powerful beings that we can't deal with.
And I was like, going to go
wait, what? There's like a bunch of other really? Like, or is that what this is going to be about? I'm glad that didn't happen, because having the villain killed in not just the first but also the second book of your however many book-long series this is going to end up being would kind of be like, well, then what's the point of these, like, plot-wise? So I'm kind of glad that didn't happen. And I'm also glad we got to meet the King of Hybern, because he was just kind of like a nameless fear in the first one. And him now being around and him being...
really crappy guy.
Really awful, which makes sense. And the Cauldron doing a bunch of terrible things. Yeah, it's... I mean, I'm interested to see where it goes. It still feels like he's kind of... a placeholder, but that's probably just me reading too much into what Amryn said. But there's only one way I'll find out. That is to keep on reading.
Yeah, it is, baby.
But is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Oh yeah, when the attack on Velaris
I was going to say the Velaris attack.
The attack on Velaris was so sad. Oh yes, exactly. Farah's fight was really cool, because I was literally like, she's waterbending. This is dope.
I had said to you, like, I remember reading that scene and being in Farah's head in that scene was such an interesting piece, because I feel like so often we're in these like battle scenes with these people who know what they're doing. And he's like, oh, slash this guy, and she's like, I guess I'll try this, like, you know, which to me was like a more realistic point of view.
Yeah.
But really
and
cool
it makes sense
also.
because
and
she's
saving
been
the artist. Like how she made her way down. She was like, oh, I cannot let art.
Her journey with depression and how it's related to her creativity and art and her expressiveness and stuff, I think was all tied together very well. And the fact that she saved the artist quarter, I loved all of that. And it does make sense that she's not just like immediately a god. Yeah. Because she's just like a lot of the book is like training montages and how she's supposed to be learning how to fight and stuff. So I liked that. And just learning how to use her power in general. And her many powers. And I did like all of that a lot, and the way that it worked, and when her powers like would show up, and when she learned to, what do they call the traveling thing? Winnowing. When she learned to winnow, when she was able to, and when she wasn't. Yeah, it was all really, I think it was all really well done. I think for the most part the book was really entertaining. And one last character that I just remembered that we forgot to talk about is Ianthe.
She's forgettable.
I thought it was really funny that in the beginning I was like, oh cool, a new like friend character for Feyre, that'll be nice. I thought it was really funny that Sarah J. Maas was like, here's this new like essentially power structure that we didn't talk about at all in the first book, but whatever. There were a few things like that, like when Lucien was like, all these people you see here, just like a few months ago before you killed Amarantha, they were all in tunnels and like killing each other, and they hadn't seen the sunlight in centuries. And I went, that's a lot. Okay, sure. But Ianthe being the high priestesses or whatever they call them, being like a check almost on the High Lords, or like another power structure in there. But her specifically being like, no, they absolutely have so much sex. I thought it was hilarious. Because literally she's like, well, I thought that like, you know, holy people didn't do that, but Ianthe sleeps with people, different people every night.
We do it all the time.
Yes, and her sinister turn in the latter part of the book, like, she tried to seduce Rhysand, she maybe forced herself upon Lucien, and the fact that she's working with the King of Hybern. But yeah, she was. It was an interesting arc that she went through in such a short period of time. But really, my favorite part of it was when Sarah J. Maas immediately was like, she has sex. She has so much sex, and I was like, okay, great.
It's like religion, but it's not.
Yeah. But anyway, I think those are overall just a big step up in a ton of different ways. I still have my problems with it, but for the most part, I found it very entertaining, and I absolutely understand why people like it so much now. After the first one, I was a little bit confused. Yeah. But this one I like a lot more.
Common theme, honestly.
Anything else you want to say about it?
No, I love it. It's my favorite book I've ever read.
Great. What do you want to rate it on? What do you think we should rate it? Yeah, sure.
It's got to be Cauldrons. That's an easy one, too.
So how many Cauldrons out of 5? I mean, I got to assume I know, but how many Cauldrons out of 5 did you get this? 5 billion Cauldrons. Yeah. I'll try and find a way to fit that all onto the screen. I would give this a 4 out of 5 cauldrons. Big step up, I think, from the first book. Some of my issues just stem from like logical things, but that's kind of a common thing I have with Sarah J. Maas books, and I'm just reading too much into them. For history on that, see any of our Throne of Glass videos, in which Liz is like, "You're thinking about this too much."
I've never even thought about that passage in the book. I don't know what you're talking about.
And Resent, but I just got to get over that. So whatever.
I don't know, do you? Have your own experience.
I'm having my own experience. Yeah. It's a work in progress, just like me.
Maybe.
Just like all of us.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the end of our thoughts on A Court of Mist and Fury. Did you like this book as much as Liz? Did you like this book as much as me?
I will request also, please keep the comments spoiler-free, because Robby does check them more than I do.
Please.
And there are a lot of things he nailed on the head and a lot of things he did not. So
great.
Do not... Please, if
I love hearing that my assumptions are wrong.
Some of them are right, and some of them are very wrong.
That's exciting.
It'll be really interesting. I personally think you're going to really like this next book.
Okay.
I'm very intrigued for your experience, and it's not my favorite book, but it's not my least. It's definitely my second favorite. So I'll be interested to see. But if you can, please keep the comments as spoiler free as possible. That would be really great, just for his experience, because I want him to have a spoiler-free experience for the next...
please don't spoil things for me, but we would love to talk to you about the book in the comments.
We talk about this
Let us know about any of your thoughts on different parts of the book. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let us know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and...
we'll see you on our next adventure.